definitely you have good Serbs. As you have good Russians.
No.
As you have good Russians.
No.
No?
Could you ask him what does he think about the war in Ukraine? But was Russia wrong? But do you support Kosovo? Вы поддерживаете Kosovo? Или вы поддерживаете Сербию? Some of your policemen support Russia. Is it him?
What Ukrainians are going through is similar to what Kosovars went through in 98, 99.
Nga përzineve që ka ushtëria FSB-a që i bojnë, ja tha dhe dëmat autobus, sa kongoron, tash aty rrinë, edhe a pistolti, pisposhtë, se këneja im jam duket. Të konë
Nuk është këtë të naltë,
pa mo
hen djathas aty dhe kthehësh me një...
poshtë.
Приштина – столиця Косова, частково визнаної держави, яка утворилася в результаті кровопролитних Балканських війн. 25 років тому тут розгорівся конфлікт між сербами, які після розпаду Югославії намагалися втримати контроль над колишніми республіками, та албанцями, переважною більшістю, яка населяє Косово. Як і війни в інших балканських країнах, вони супроводжувалися етнічними чистками, масовими вбивствами, і результатом стало введення миротворчої місії під егідою НАТО та виведення сербських військ з Косова, а 2008 року Косово проголосило свою незалежність в односторонньому порядку. Але сьогодні ми тут, аби досліджувати довгострокові наслідки війни. Що може бути з країною, з територією через десятки років після війни. І ви бачите, що Приштина виглядає досить мирним містом, люди п'ють каву, граються діти, грає музика, але тим не менш люди, які ходять цими вулицями, досі носять собі рани, наслідки цієї війни. Ми говорили з ними, і деякі неохоче згадують про війну. В суспільстві є ехо цього розділення на тих, хто воював, хто не воював, власне, що ти робив 25 років тому. Жертви воєнних злочинів, деякі з них досі бояться говорити, наприклад, якщо це стосується сексуальних злочинів. А злочинців, воєнних злочинців досі судять в Гаазі. І зрозуміло, що, мабуть, всіх їх ніколи так і не покарають.
Situation, so we cover Albanians as well as Serbs. Here you have Kosovo Albanians that are alone in the north and struggling, but also you have the Serbian women to which we have the background of this story. Who has their back?
I want to ask you some questions about the war.
Funny, you're in the middle of a war. You want to ask me questions about my war. Okay.
Why do you think I came here?
Oh, I know. Tell me.
How do you remember the war?
So, let's say 1 million people from here were refugees. And to answer your question, I'm actually doing an exhibition because this year is 25th anniversary of what I want to note is the biggest return of refugees ever, and I was one of them. I want to remember the war as a success story. If we didn't have the intervention, which led, so the public opinion that we raised with everything that was going on, clearly I filmed many Albanians being massacred, dying, but the most epic success in the end, which I hope your country will result in, is the epic return of 1 million refugees within 1 week. In June 99, you had 1 million refugees, including myself, who was expelled by Milosevic regime. We returned to our country. Although everybody said, well, there will be mines, there will be burned homes. People lived in tents. But it was important for us to return because we knew that we had decades and decades of campaigns for Serbia to make sure no Albanians are left here. Attacking our language, attacking our schools, attacking our intellectuals, killing our intellectuals. My uncle, for example, was in jail in 1980s during Yugoslav time. I must say, I remember the war in the end as the victorious part, the all worth it. It was all worth it. Even the people who died, they were worth it because today we are free.
Hadi beki. Shko. Ftesa që është bërë për ta ndërprerë ushtrisë.
When you learned about Bucha, or maybe Mariupol as well, does it somehow resemble with your history?
Everybody here was traumatized when Bucha happened and was re-traumatized. People were looking at that and completely identifying with Ukrainian people, and a lot of people wanted to join the Ukrainian army. People started collecting goods. We went into a protest in town. I took part in it. The president was ahead of that protest. People were extremely supportive, and they felt like they know what they felt a little bit like what Ukrainians are going through is similar to what Kosovars went through in 98, 99.
Попри те, що Україна не визнає Косово, тут у Приштині до цього ставляться з розумінням, усвідомлюючи все, що відбувається в Україні, і неможливість це зробити зараз. Тим не менш, Україну тут підтримують. От ви можете це бачити не лише по цих прапорах, але також опитування показують переважну більшість підтримки України у цій війні. Окрім того, уряд Косова також передавав певну зброю, так небагато, але все ж таки показово для такої невеликої і частково визнаної країни. So people want to see the monuments, these like dark places, as you put it, in summer, like for holidays.
Yeah, there are a group of people that are very much interesting to know like personal story, to meet local and to get different perspective from locals, and also for the time that we have gone, like a war during 1998, 1999.
So you mentioned earlier that you lost 9 members of your family.
Some of them. In that time I was living in Jakova, which is a very small city between Peja and Prizren.
And what did Serbs commit there?
Well, we have gone through a terrible event and violence. They kill a lot of people. They burn the old part of the city. Everything was burned down to earth, and a lot of massacre happened in my city.
Some attackers, some people who committed crimes here, they were Serbs who lived here, so they were neighbors of the victims.
Yeah.
And how do you live with afterwards? How do you live with the neighbors who killed your loved ones?
What really happened here was, the information that I have that they were locals involving in special unit of a Serbian army, and local ones were involved, especially in Jakova and as well in Krusha and Mada. And some of them, they are still free, but we really trust in justice, and we hope that some days or any days in the future someone will bring them, and let's see.
This is the date of the Moscow massacre.
Зараз ми в'їжджаємо у північну частину Косова. І ось ви бачите, тут багато знаків Z, багато прапорів Росії, багато різних написів на підтримку Росії. Власне, це те, чим сильно вирізняється ця частина Косова від всієї іншої. Якщо в Приштині ми бачили прапори України, тут ми бачимо прапори Росії. До речі, багато людей тут досі їздять на сербських номерах. Це була велика проблема, яку намагалися вирішити, але бачите, що досі на цій території їздять автомобілісти з не косовськими номерами. How do you feel about this?
It's good. We don't expect anything else. It's okay.
But do you like it?
It just shows that, you know, they are more close to Russians. Nothing new. It's okay. We like the Americans, they like the Russians. It's okay. But it says when the military will come to Kosovo, Z and then Russia.
So you are Serb, right?
No.
Could you ask him why did he join the police?
A pitate zašto si počeo da radiš u policiju? Voliš policiju ili kao zašto?
Pa prvenstveno sam se odlučio za taj posao zato što mislim da je mnogo bitno da budu i Srbi i Albanci jer mešovit je narod ovde na Kosovu.
I think it was very good for us to be as police because this place is with Albanians, Serbs, with everything, so we can help. We can do our job.
Weren't he scared of
Da se nisi uplašio ti da
some criminals?
Ne, nikako.
Od nekih ljudi, kriminalaca ili tako da te
Ne, nisam imao nikakav strah.
He says I had no fear. No?
But why? A lot of Serbs will be scared, right?
Some of them resigned, but not many. Kaže, on bi trebalo da bude uplašen jer pošto je Srbin, pa pošto može da bude problem.
Da, razumem ih što hoće da kažu, ali nemam strah, radim pošteno svoj posao i nemam čega da se bojim.
I have no fear, I just do my job in a good way, a professional way, I try to do it and just do my job.
Mm-hmm. And what do local people think here?
A šta ovi lokalci, šta misle? Kako da znam?
Trebali bi njih da pitate.
But do you support Kosovo? Вы поддерживаете Kosovo или вы поддерживаете Сербию?
Kaže, jel podržavaš Kosovo ili Srbiju?
Na to pitanje ne mogu da vam odgovorim.
Ti podržavaš narod?
Narod, da, tako.
Do you have a problem?
This is a very straight question for him, but he says I support. For me, I support the people. I work for the people.
But aren't you scared? What if
He says no. He says no.
No, but I mean you are not scared having people like in the police, people who don't support Kosovo?
No, at the moment that he has a flag in his arm, for me it's okay. All I ask from him is to support the people, his people. I don't care if he supports whatever. The point is he needs to serve for his own people. And he has a flag, he comes in, he has a document, he needs to be Kosovar in order to come to my police force.
Would you ask him what does he think about the war in Ukraine?
A šta misli za Ukrajinu? Za rat u Ukrajini?
Za rat? Rat...
Ovo ti nije od policije, znači to dolazi od tebe, od tvojeg srce.
Za rat u Ukrajinu mislim da rat nikom nije doneo dobro kao prvo. Ne želi, nijedan narod na svetu ne želi rat.
Not even one nation in the world would like war. War is bad for everyone.
Nikom to nije doneo dobro.
No one good. To no one is good.
But was Russia wrong?
That's too delicate question for him.
But why?
No. It's police officer in uniform. Whatever he says might be different.
No, some of your policemen support Russia.
Could be.
Is it him?
I don't know.
Вы поддерживаете Россию?
Кажи, поддержаваш Русiju. Ili Ukrajinu.
Nisam adekvatan u uniformi dajem takve odgovore.
He says I'm in uniform, exactly. He cannot give a statement like that.
So where is it again?
It's in North Mitrovica. It's a city of Mitrovica in
Serbian part.
Yes, Serbian part.
Let's
Yes.
say Serbian inhabited. For example, is working on a fact-checking program looking at the Russian propaganda in Western Balkans, how the Russian propaganda is spread in Serbia, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Yes.
That's a Putin cafe.
So, Putin Cafe in the Balkans,
Penetration of other narratives is difficult.
in Bosnia. We have our own authentic grassroots propaganda, for sure. But since the all-out invasion on Ukraine has started, the Russian propaganda has been intertwined with the Serbian propaganda because they identify with each other and with Valdes.
Sad je čak za Putin, evo mi u sred Banja Luke.
North Mitrovica, you see the signs that here you are. Not to go home and. Okay, let me show you again.
Definitely you have good Serbs, as you have good Russians.
No.
As you have good Russians.
No.
I think there are some. You have to be a little bit open to the fact that some Russians are going through a lot of shit with their government. So I know that at the moment it may not seem so, because I know the attitude.
The problem is they are still imperialistic. Even those.
Not everybody. You haven't met everybody.
Most of them.
Plus, I see most of maybe most of Serbs are like that, but still you have to allow space for a few people who want to do their job professionally. You have to let them breathe.
I am not ready for that.
I know you're not, but in 20 years, like me, you'll be ready. Yes. I'm not saying we should feel sorry for them, but I think you should leave space as a journalist. You should leave space to cover that side. You know why? Because in 20 years after the war, I was invited by a Serb paramilitary to give me the story, and he spoke for 2 hours to me in an incredible interview how he killed Albanians with his group in West Kosovo, hundreds of Albanians, and how he was indoctrinated. He spoke about when he was 18, how he was indoctrinated, how he was invited to kill, he became part of the gang, and in 20 years he said, I'm about to die, things are happening to me, I want to tell my story, because I'm not very well in my head. So, in that time, you have to be ready to film that interview. And then I had a friend call me, and he said the scene he described is exactly, in my village, how my mother was killed. That is what terrified me a bit more. I had people call me afterwards to say it's exactly what he said that happened.
not all of them, but there are people that they are very much interested in like knowing more about dark tourism.
What do they usually ask?
Well, it depends. For example, in Pristina we have some, like we have a heroine at memorial. Of course, they want to know about why the memorial was in downtown and what does it mean for us.
Цей пам'ятник – приклад того, що всю правду про війну і ті масштаби, яких вона завдала, мабуть, ми ніколи не дізнаємося. Це пам'ятник жертвам сексуального насильства. Він складається з 20 тисяч цвяхів, що символічно, бо саме таку цифру називають місцеві громадські організації. Вони кажуть про те, що приблизно 20 тисяч жінок постраждали від сексуального насильства з боку сербських солдатів, але знову ж таки не включаючи чоловіків, не включаючи дітей. І це число дуже приблизне, тому що жертви сексуального насильства не часто, дуже рідко говорять про те, що з ними сталося, і тим більше тут, в Косово, в 90-х, на початку 2000-х, досить таки патріархальному суспільстві, про це зазвичай мовчали. Але масштаби, як ви бачите, дуже великі і дуже страшні. There were also a lot of sexual assaults in Kosovo committed by Serbs, and you mentioned you were a young girl. Was every woman scared of that? How was it?
Of course, we had to live in fears. So since 1998 up to 1999, we were hiding, we were running all the time, and we were living in fears that probably tomorrow something bad will happen to us, and it's the worst feeling ever.
So you had to hide?
Of course, all the time we had to run, we had to hide, and like going from one spot, from one house to another house, and it was very difficult for us.
Україна не визнає незалежності Косова. Зрозуміло, що головним аргументом раніше був Крим. Україна відстоює перевагу територіальної цілісності над правом народів на самовизначення у міжнародному праві. Сьогодні ви почуєте багато аргументів місцевих, які відстоюють цю думку, що Косово інший випадок, що його не варто переносити на рухи сепаратистські в інших країнах. Тим не менш, в Україні є свої національні інтереси, які вона продовжує відстоювати, зокрема і на міжнародній арені.
Ja.
You compare Kosovo to Luhansk, which is
Crimea.
not right. That is the Russian narrative. What we have to do together, us, people who fight Russian propaganda in the Balkans, and you who fight propaganda, Russian propaganda in Ukraine, you have to separate this narrative. Kosovo is like Ukraine. It's not like Donbass. Kosovo got free from former Yugoslavia. It's like getting free from former Soviet Union. Like you got your freedom from Soviet Union when the communism fell. We are the last piece of former Yugoslavia that needed their independence. Kosovo is not like Donbass. This is the message we have to ensure, and eventually your country has to recognize our country, because you see.
And northern Kosovo is like Donbass.
wants to be. Wants to be. We will not allow it, but it wants to be like Donbass, for sure. So that, to simplify it, that's what it is.
Could you explain what
Yes.
is going on in North Kosovo?
So,
Тут майже всюди можна побачити сербські прапори. Зрозуміло, що оцей регіон, де дуже проживає багато сербів, підтримує тісні зв'язки з Белградом. Згідно з домовленостями, Сербія контролює, має вплив на сферу освіти і медицини у цьому регіоні. Вони її фінансують і, відповідно, таким чином впливають на життя місцевих людей. Наприклад, нам розказала історія, коли місцевий чоловік з'явився на камері з прем'єр-міністром Косова, після чого його звільнили з роботи. Але це не найгірший випадок, люди тут досить бояться говорити, ми вам показували. Пов'язано з тим, що окрім звільнення можуть бути і гірші випадки, коли контрольовані, ймовірно, Сербією злочинні угрупування погрожують людям чи навіть там спалюють їхні машини за те, що вони публічно демонструють якось підтримку Косова. Ми з України.
Ona ti je novinar iz Ukrajine.
A, iz Ukrajine, aha.
Što ви думаєте о війні?
Ne razumete.
What does he think about the war?
Ja, pitaj šta misliš za tamo, za Ukrajinu.
Pa, mislim, žao mi narod gine bez veze, to su neke gluposti. Da, vidite, nije samo Ukrajina, nego svugda. Samo jače sile, one se, kako bi rekao, huškaju, a prost narod strada.
When the high powers, they come together, they have a quarrel, then it's for the people who lose.
Većina mi je to žao. Čujem kako narod kaže, bez veze, to mnogo ljudi gine bez veze.
Too many people being killed.
Could he explain why there are so many Z signs here?
Jel može da nam kaže zašto je toliko Z, ono slova Z?
Jel mi verujete da se ne kunemo decu, ja ne znam to šta znači. Jel mi verujete, majke mi. Čuo sam neko kao kaže Z, kao, pošto kao Rusija ratuje sa Zapadom, eto to sam čujem ono.
Z means like something like Russia is fighting
to, inače stvarno ne znam šta to znači.
For the Russia to support.
Can he explain why people here support Russia?
Ajde, može da kažeš zašto ljudi ovde suportiraju Rusiju?
Ne znam, možda što su pravoslavci. Pretpostavljam to. Da, to će drugi. Ima neki kažu drugačije, neki ovako, neki onako.
Baš tako?
Ja ću da vas častim kafu, vetom šta ćete vi. Ne, ja ću da vas častim.
No.
Drugi put kad dođete, šta će ova devojka da popije?
What do you want to drink?
Ми тільки що виходимо з магазину, якщо подивитись, там пошта, і там ми бачимо зетки намальовані.
When you win the war, what will be interesting is how you will treat the Russians, how the winning party will treat the losing party, not the vice versa.
And what are your recommendations?
Recommendation is you just don't lose humanity in yourself. The greatest risk of all when fighting with a monster, I read this in a book, is to become a monster yourself. When you fight a monster, the greatest risk is you become a monster. You don't lose humanity. You need to have humanity in yourself.
Were you like that just after the war was over, or you came to this conclusion through the years?
After the war.
After, because I think like it's not easy for us right
now. No, it's not. No. But you learn this because you see, you find a small child. You try. You have seen this in many movies, but when you try it, you will learn it. When you try it yourself, you lose humanity, you will lose everything. Sometimes you need to help a person who is helpless. If a person says, "I'm sorry, I'm surrendering," you don't need to shoot the man because you lose humanity. Each time you shoot someone, you lose humanity. You need to keep humanity in yourself because after that, you will lose everything if you lose that. This is for you. This was for me. I need to have this humanity with me. When I speak to these guys, I fought with them.
You did?
I fought. I was in a war.
Yes.
I fought against Serbs for 1 year. I was injured in the war myself. I don't blame them. It's for them. It's interesting. For me, it's different. We never had a country before. Now we understand when they say politics is like that. For me, it's no politics. For me, it's human or no human. It's human side and not the human side. Now I understand this. Now I start to understand them.
Це міст, який символізує розділення Косова. Ось там албанська частина, а позаду мене частина, де компактно проживає сербська меншина. Вона ближче до кордону з Сербією. Ви бачите, охороняють карабінєри, італійські поліцейські, які працюють в місії KFOR. Миротворчій місії під егідою НАТО, яка, власне, зайшла сюди після війни і охороняє північний кордон Косова.
But like I told you, people in here, they are divided with the ideology thing. Some go to the east, the others go to the west. We are much closer to Ukrainians than Ukrainians might think.
How so?
Same ideology, same values, same traditions, same. You go to the west, we go to the west. Just that you might think because of the religion, we don't care about religion. We have Albanians in Albania, that is part of us. So Albanian, Muslim, Catholic, Orthodox. So, I don't know what is the reality in Ukrainian. You have to be there in order to understand it. But like I said, in the end, you just need to keep humanity. Try to keep it. You will understand this.
Anyway, some people who committed war crimes. Here, do you think that this justice will be achieved? I mean, the justice that will satisfy Kosovo?
It will never be achieved. Don't forget that even today you have Nazis being arrested in the rest of the world from Second World War. The justice will take time, and we will work towards it. You just have to always kind of persist and work towards it and create an atmosphere when people can come out and speak no matter how late it is believed it is.
So you talk to those people on the ground. Is it easier for them to speak out now, 25 years later?
We had 20 years of specially raped women never telling their story. It was horrible. So you had one woman come out and speak publicly of the experience of being raped, and she became a member of parliament afterwards. That's extraordinary in Kosovo, from the background of very patriarchal society. So many things took 20 years. Many things took 20 years for people to speak.
It's been 25 years, and talking to you, people around, I'm thinking how much time it will take for us.
Wow. Well, we share the same pain, if I can say we share the same pain, and we really feel you. And as I said, I stopped looking TV since the war in Ukraine started, because we have gone through and I know really what does it mean to lost people that you love. And hopefully it's going to end very soon. And but well, good memories, we can forget about good memories, but painful memories is something totally different.
And how do you feel those wounds?
Well, it's like when you cross, for example, the city where I come from, it was like the old part of the city was totally destroyed. And whenever I go through that roads, like passing by, it's just like a click, and it goes back and it reminds everything that happened during 1998 and 1999.